We are talking to Dr. Richard Safier, the Superintendent of Gloucester Schools. Hi, Dr. Safier. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you. How about yourself?
Okay.
Good.
We understand there's been some important news from the governor today.
Yes, he held a conference around noon and indicated that schools will be closed for the rest of the school year. We had received a bit of a telegraphing of sorts from the Commissioner of Education, even going back to last week a little bit, not saying that this is what's going to happen, but sort of indicating that it would come to pass. And I don't know if you had a chance to hear the governor, but all things considered, and considering where we are with respect to the pandemic, and in an interest of trying to maintain the safety of as many individuals as possible, and obviously to stop the spread of COVID-19, the governor has declared that schools are closed for the remainder of the school year.
And Corey, you have questions, right?
Yeah, so we actually asked parents to submit questions as well. And right off the top, many are asking about prom and graduation.
Right, tough questions. And I can't say that I have the answer. My original response was wait until May 5th. The governor just announced today. This is a very, very difficult question, and people really haven't sorted it out. Earlier today, the commissioner said something about creating some sort of a national graduation kind of thing across the state or something along those lines. I'm not sure that that makes sense because people are looking for something more intimate. But the way things stand right now, schools are closed. They're closed because of a pandemic. We're being asked to social distance. Large assemblies are not supposed to happen. So that's the environment that we're now confronted with as we try to figure out how to provide and preserve some of the elements of an end of year celebration for our seniors. Don't have the answer yet.
Oh, so we understand. So there'll be standards released this Friday as far as curriculum goes, or
what the Department of Ed is going to do is to provide some guidance on the curriculum and standards. What has been recommended is that we work with materials that have already been taught. I mean, we're in this maelstrom of a transition, and reviewing what we had already taught, doing it in a deeper level. That was sort of the recommendation. Now, with the new guidance coming out, I think what we can anticipate is that the curriculum standards have what are called power standards. So standards could have specifics about science or math or ELA, but the power standards talk more about how students are taught to think, make inferences, think critically, make deductions, inductions. The power standards are broader. So I think what the emphasis is going to be is how can we address the power standards, and to what extent can we begin to think about introducing new material in order to do that?
mm-hmm.
Could you give us some examples of this power standard as applied to, for instance, an English class or a history class?
Right, I sort of touched on it before. You might be talking about Moby Dick, just the one that comes to mind, and there are certain thematic elements about Moby Dick in relation to life and death and meaning and purpose and stuff. The power standards would use Moby Dick and other textbooks in order to sort of talk about how children are learning to make evaluations and judgments. There are different, it gets complicated. There are different orders of thinking that the experts say we go through, everything from just comprehension, I know what you're saying, to looking at things and making an evaluation between two things and determining which one has greater value. So the power standards tend towards, fancy word alert, the more metacognitive aspects of how we think. And that's what distinguishes them from the, quote, regular standards.
So this is the kind of learning that students can look forward to for the rest of the year. And then the faculty will have to adapt to this teaching, right?
Right. I almost bristled when you said look forward. I'm not sure.
It will.
The good teachers camouflage this, and they get the kids immersed in the materials and interacting with the materials. And just like somebody translates something from English into Italian, teachers are thinking in the back of their mind, oh, we're also getting the kids to think this way, without telegraphing it as directly, because I think they would look less than forward to it if we were to say, well, you're going to learn how to do this metacognitively together. That would be
So, Dr. Safier, do you think that the hours of remote learning, the regular day hours, will be expanded or contracted moving forward?
We've established a memorandum of agreement with the teachers union, and we have one on that's happening with our paraprofessionals as well. The short answer is no, I don't think so. I don't know that we're going to be expecting an expansion of hours recommendations from the Department of Ed. And I would say, based on feedback, that everybody has as much as they can handle at this point in time. There's only so much time. We're virtually into May and then just a part of June. I think that what we want to do now is to really try to hone our skills in the allotted time and to try to hold everybody legitimately and reasonably accountable for the work that we're doing.
I have actually an interesting question here too is, will there be scheduled times to collect belongings from lockers?
I got that email today as well. I'm concerned about lots of people going into buildings. What we've been doing with teachers is them telling us what they need, asking the custodians or the principal who's in the building to retrieve, and then working out some sort of a social distance kind of drop-off kind of situation. If we have a case where at the high school where we've got 600 kids asking to come in, that's not practical. So I think I have to think in terms, number one, of taking the necessary precautions, and number two, what happens if a trickle becomes a flood? Letting in a handful of students on an appointment type basis, spreading it out as much as possible is one thing, but if you've got hundreds of people asking to go in, that gets to be a problem.
We just spoke with Rockport Superintendent Lebo a few moments ago, and he was very determined to hope to have some sort of a graduation ceremony that wasn't remote. Mm-hmm. Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, I know obviously you're dealing with a lot more students in Gloucester, but any thoughts on that, Rich?
I need to talk to the high school and see where they're at, and I would need to talk with the Department of Health to find out where they're at. I am, by inclination, I have to confess, I'm extremely cautious about large gatherings at this point. We're peaking. I just read the statistics in the Boston Globe just before I came on with you folks, and I'm concerned. I'm just concerned. I personally don't want to be responsible for anybody being placed at risk.
Well said. Yes.
Very well said. Well, my guess is, Dr. Safier, that we'll be in touch a lot more frequently as these weeks unfold and as news comes to us. So if you don't mind, we'll probably get to tap your shoulder again in a week or so just to see where we stand.
Glad to do so. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for your time. Be well.
Thank you. You too. See you.